The digital clock glowed 3:17 a.m. when Zara heard the bedroom door creak open. She kept her breathing steady and her eyes barely cracked, watching through her lashes as her husband Brandon tiptoed across their hardwood floor. His movements were careful, practiced. This wasn't his first time. She watched him pause at her dresser, his silhouette outlined by the hallway light. His hand moved toward her purse with the precision of someone who had done this before. The leather made the softest whisper as he opened it, and Zara's heart hammered against her ribs. After 3 months of suspicion, after 3 months of noticing the small changes in his behavior, she was finally going to get her proof. Brandon's fingers found exactly what they were looking for: the platinum credit card she had deliberately placed in the most accessible pocket. The card that looked exactly like all her other cards but was connected to a completely separate account. An account she controlled. An account she had loaded with $50,000 of her own money, knowing exactly what he would do with it. He slipped the card into his wallet and crept back out of the room. Zara waited until she heard the front door close, then immediately reached for her phone. Her banking app showed her the account balance, $50,000. By tomorrow she knew that number would be much smaller, and she would have everything she needed. The idea for the trap had come to her 6 weeks ago. She had been doing laundry when she found a hotel receipt in Brandon's pants pocket. The Ritz-Carlton in Miami. He had told her he was in Cleveland for a conference. When she looked up the dates, Cleveland had been experiencing a blizzard that week. No conferences were running. That night, she had lain awake thinking about their 7-year marriage. About how distant he had become. About the mysterious phone calls he took in the other room. About how he suddenly needed to work late 3 times a week. About how he had stopped looking at her the way he used to. She could have confronted him then. Could have screamed and cried and demanded answers. Instead, she had gotten smart. She opened a new credit card account in her name only, using her maiden name as an additional cardholder. The card looked identical to her regular platinum card. She loaded it with money from her personal savings account, money she had earned from her freelance graphic design work, money that was entirely hers. Then she waited. The first charge came through at 6:45 a.m. American Airlines, $4,847 for 2 first-class tickets to Miami. Her phone buzzed with the notification and she almost laughed. 2 tickets. So he wasn't even hiding it anymore. By 8 a.m. there were more charges. The Fontainebleau Hotel, $2,300 for a 3-night stay in an ocean view suite. By 10 a.m., Tiffany & Company, $8,900. Her hands shook as she screenshotted every transaction. She made herself coffee and sat at their kitchen island, watching the charges roll in like a slow-motion car crash. Each notification felt like a small victory and a devastating blow at the same time. She was getting her proof, but she was also watching her marriage die in real time. Lunch at Joe's Stone Crab, $340. Spa treatments at the hotel, $780. Versace boutique, $2,100. The spending continued throughout the day, each purchase more brazen than the last. By evening, when Brandon called to tell her he was stuck in meetings and wouldn't be home until late, nearly $30,000 was gone. "I miss you," he said over the phone, and Zara had to bite her tongue to keep from laughing at the audacity. "Miss you too," she replied, her voice steady. "Don't work too hard." As she hung up, another notification pinged. Nobu, Miami, $890. A romantic dinner for 2 while he was supposedly in meetings. That night, Zara sat in their empty house and felt something shift inside her. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep, but it was being joined by something else. Something colder and more focused. She wasn't going to be the crying, hysterical wife. She wasn't going to beg him to come back or try to compete with whoever this other woman was. She was going to be smart. She was going to be strategic. And she was going to win. The spending continued the next day. Brunch at the Four Seasons, $230. Jet ski rentals, $600. Shopping at Lincoln Road, $1,800. Each charge built her case stronger. Each receipt was another nail in the coffin of their marriage. By the time Brandon returned home on Sunday evening, tan and relaxed and full of stories about his difficult clients, $50,000 was gone. He kissed her cheek and asked about her weekend as if he hadn't just spent more money than most people made in a year on another woman. "Quiet weekend," Zara told him, accepting his kiss while internally cataloging every lie. "Just caught up on some work." He nodded and headed upstairs to shower, probably washing off the scent of whoever she was. Zara watched him go and smiled for the first time in weeks. He had no idea that every dollar he had spent was documented. Every location was tracked. Every lie was recorded. The trap had worked perfectly. Monday morning brought clarity like Zara had never experienced before. While Brandon left for work, whistling and cheerful after his business trip, she spread every screenshot and notification across their dining room table. The evidence was overwhelming. 3 days in Miami had cost $50,000 of her money. But more than that, the pattern told a complete story. The duplicate charges showed he wasn't alone. 2 spa treatments. 2 dinners. 2 shopping trips. Every receipt painted a picture of Brandon living a completely different life with someone else. She opened her laptop and began creating a spreadsheet. Column 1, date. Column 2, merchant. Column 3, amount. Column 4, evidence type. By noon she had 43 entries. By evening, after cross-referencing with his social media and work calendar, she had a complete timeline of his deception. The Tiffany receipt bothered her the most. $8,900 for diamond earrings. She knew because she called the store, pretending to be checking on a purchase for her husband. The sales associate was happy to confirm. White gold, 2 carats total, beautiful choice for someone special. Someone special. Not his wife of 7 years. Someone special. Zara's phone rang, interrupting her research. The caller ID showed a local number she didn't recognize. Mrs. Coleman? This is Gabriel Torres from Henderson Financial Investigation Services. You left a message about needing help with a financial matter. She had called the investigation firm that morning after finding their number online. Gabriel's voice was professional but kind, with just a hint of an accent that made her feel oddly comfortable. Yes, thank you for calling back. I think my husband is committing financial fraud, and I need help documenting everything for divorce proceedings. I see. Can you tell me a bit more about the situation? Zara found herself explaining everything. The suspicious behavior, the trap credit card, the $50,000 spent in 3 days. Gabriel listened without interrupting, occasionally asking clarifying questions. Mrs. Coleman, what you've described is actually quite sophisticated. Setting up that monitoring account shows real strategic thinking. Most people in your situation react emotionally, which makes it harder to build a legal case. I was emotional, Zara admitted. I'm still emotional. But I realized being smart would serve me better than being angry. That's exactly right. The evidence you've gathered so far is excellent, but there are some additional steps we should take to make sure everything is legally admissible. Would you be available to meet tomorrow? After scheduling the appointment, Zara returned to her spreadsheet. But her mind kept drifting to Gabriel's voice, to how he had taken her seriously immediately. When was the last time Brandon had spoken to her with that kind of respect? The charges from the trip were complete, but when she checked the account that evening, new transactions appeared. Gas station in Brandon's neighborhood, $67. That made sense, he was back home. But then, Nordstrom, $340. Victoria's Secret, $180. Sephora, $95. More gifts. For someone who wasn't his wife. Zara screenshotted everything and added it to her growing file. Then she did something that surprised herself. She texted her sister Riley. Can you come over tomorrow night? I have something to tell you. Riley arrived the next evening with wine and concern written all over her face. The two sisters had always been close, but Zara had been distant lately, canceling dinners and dodging phone calls. Now she knew why. I'm getting a divorce, Zara said without preamble. Riley nearly dropped her wine glass. What happened? Zara showed her the spreadsheet, walking through each charge and what it meant. Riley's expression moved from shock to anger to something that looked like pride. Holy shit, Zara. You trapped him. This is like something out of a movie. It felt like the only way to get the truth. If I had just accused him, he would have denied everything and gotten better at hiding it. So what's next? Tomorrow I meet with a financial investigator. Then I file for divorce. And then. Zara paused, thinking about Gabriel's voice, about how it felt to be taken seriously. Then I figure out what my life looks like without him. Riley raised her wine glass. To new beginnings. As they clinked glasses, Zara's phone buzzed. Another charge on the trap card, $220 at a lingerie boutique. She showed Riley and both women laughed, but there was no humor in it. He really has no idea, does he? Riley asked. None at all. He thinks he's so clever. That night, after Riley left, Zara sat in her home office updating her evidence file. The dining room table was covered with printed receipts, bank statements, and handwritten timelines. Tomorrow she would meet Gabriel and begin the legal process of ending her marriage. But tonight she allowed herself to feel proud. She had been betrayed and lied to and used. But she hadn't fallen apart. She had gotten smart. She had gotten strategic. She had turned her husband's betrayal into his own trap. The credit card was still in his wallet, still being used. And every single charge was building her case stronger. Gabriel Torres turned out to be nothing like what Zara had expected from a financial investigator. She had pictured someone older, maybe rumpled and cynical. Instead, the man who met her at the downtown coffee shop was probably around 35, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He wore a well-fitted suit but had rolled up his sleeves, giving him an approachable air that immediately put her at ease. "Mrs. Coleman?" He stood as she approached, extending his hand. "Gabriel Torres. Thank you for meeting me." His handshake was firm and warm, and Zara found herself noticing details she hadn't paid attention to in years. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The fact that he waited for her to sit before taking his own seat. Small courtesies that Brandon had stopped showing her long ago. "Please call me Zara. And thank you for taking my case." Gabriel pulled out a tablet and opened a legal pad. "Before we start, I want you to know that what you've done so far is impressive. Most people in your situation are too emotional to think strategically. You've built a solid foundation for your case." Over the next 2 hours, Gabriel walked her through the legal implications of everything she had documented. The credit card charges could be considered fraudulent use since Brandon hadn't gotten permission to use her card. The fact that he had lied about his whereabouts while spending her money strengthened the case for fault-based divorce in their state. "The key now is maintaining the status quo while we build an even stronger case," Gabriel explained. "Don't let him know you suspect anything. Keep acting normal. And whatever you do, don't confront him until we have everything documented." "Act normal," Zara repeated. "Pretend I don't know my husband is stealing my money to spend on another woman. I know it sounds impossible, but it's crucial. The moment he knows you know, he'll change his behavior. He might stop using the card, or worse, he might start hiding assets we haven't found yet." That evening, Brandon came home with flowers. Cheap grocery store roses, the kind he grabbed when he felt guilty about something. Zara accepted them with a smile and put them in water, all while thinking about the $8,900 diamond earrings he had bought someone else 3 days earlier. "How was your day, baby?" he asked, kissing her forehead. "Good. Finished up the Morrison project. How about you?" "Busy. You know how it is." He loosened his tie and headed for the kitchen. "What's for dinner?" The casual assumption that she would cook for him after he had spent $50,000 on another woman almost broke her composure. "Almost. I was thinking pasta," she said instead. "That okay? Perfect. You're the best." As Zara cooked dinner, Brandon sat at the counter scrolling through his phone and telling her about his day. He was a good liar, she realized. The story about difficult clients and endless meetings sounded believable. If she hadn't had proof, she might have believed it herself. Her phone buzzed with another credit card notification. The trap card, of course. Brandon glanced up from his own phone. "Work email?" he asked. "Just a client confirming a deadline," Zara replied smoothly. The charge was for $95 at Bath & Body Works. More gifts for his girlfriend. Zara stirred the pasta sauce and kept her face neutral. Over dinner, Brandon was more attentive than he had been in months. He asked about her work, complimented the food, even suggested they plan a weekend getaway. "Where were you thinking?" Zara asked, genuinely curious about his answer. "Maybe the mountains? Somewhere quiet, just the two of us. It feels like we haven't had quality time lately." The audacity was breathtaking. He was suggesting a romantic getaway after returning from a $50,000 vacation with another woman just days earlier. "That sounds nice," Zara said. "Let me check my calendar." After dinner, Brandon retreated to his home office for a few work calls. Zara cleaned the kitchen and then went to her own office, where she updated Gabriel on the day's new charges and Brandon's behavior. Gabriel responded quickly. "His increased attention to you is probably guilt-driven. Common pattern. Stay strong." The next morning brought a new development. Brandon left for work as usual, but within an hour, new charges appeared on the trap card. Starbucks, $12. Then an hour later, Panera, $24. Then, Macy's, $340. He wasn't at work. He was with her. Zara found herself Googling the addresses of the charges, mapping out Brandon's actual day versus the story he had told her. The pattern was clear. He was spending the day shopping and having coffee with his girlfriend, using Zara's money to do it. When he came home that evening, he looked tired. "Long day?" Zara asked. "The worst. Back-to-back meetings, then that Johnson account blew up. I barely had time to eat lunch. Liar. He had spent $24 at Panera at 1:30 p.m. She had the receipt timestamp. Poor baby, she said, massaging his shoulders. Maybe a bath would help you relax. That sounds amazing. God, I love you. The words hit her like a physical blow. He said he loved her while her money paid for his lies. While her credit card bought gifts for another woman. While he built an entire second life that she wasn't part of. But Zara just smiled and ran him a bath, and when he was soaking, she updated her evidence file with the day's new charges. Each receipt was another step toward freedom. Each lie was another reason she was doing the right thing. Gabriel had been right about one thing. Staying strong was the hardest part. But every time Brandon looked her in the eye and lied, every time he accepted her kindness while betraying her trust, Zara felt her resolve strengthen. She was going to play the perfect wife right up until the moment she destroyed him. 2 weeks into her surveillance, Zara discovered the other woman's identity by accident. She was scrolling through Instagram during her lunch break when a tagged photo caught her attention. Brandon's company had posted pictures from their quarterly team meeting, and there, sitting 2 seats away from her husband, was a stunning brunette with a bright smile and familiar diamond earrings. The earrings from Tiffany. The ones that cost $8,900 of Zara's money. The woman's name was Nicole Parker, according to her Instagram profile. Marketing coordinator at the same firm where Brandon worked as regional sales director. Her bio read, "Living my best life, sparkles, Miami vibes, always palm tree," and her feed was full of expensive restaurants, designer handbags, and photos from tropical vacations. Zara scrolled back through Nicole's posts and found what she was looking for. Photos from Miami from the exact weekend Brandon had been in meetings. Nicole at the Fontainebleau pool. Nicole at Nobu. Nicole wearing a new Versace dress that Zara recognized from the credit card charges. But Nicole's biggest mistake was posting a photo at Café Amélie, a trendy brunch spot downtown, with the caption, "Perfect Tuesday morning with my favorite latte hot beverage, #blessed." The timestamp showed it was posted just yesterday at 11:30 a.m. The same time and place Brandon had charged $28 on the trap card for 2 coffees. Zara sat in her car in the parking lot of her own office building and stared at the photo. Nicole looked so happy, so carefree. She probably thought she had won some kind of prize. A successful, married man spending lavishly on her, taking her on expensive trips, buying her jewelry that cost more than most people made in months. She had no idea that every dollar came from the wife she was betraying. That evening, Zara met Gabriel at his office to review the new evidence. His workspace was clean and organized, with law books lining one wall and family photos on his desk. She noticed he wasn't wearing a wedding ring. "This is excellent work," Gabriel said, scrolling through the screenshots of Nicole's social media posts. The timestamps matching the credit card charges create a clear timeline. And the fact that they work together adds another layer of complexity to your husband's situation. Complexity how? Most companies have policies about workplace relationships, especially between supervisors and subordinates. Brandon is Nicole's superior, which could create liability issues for the company. They might be very interested to learn about this relationship. Zara felt a spark of vindictive satisfaction. Would that affect Nicole's job? Possibly. It depends on their specific policies. But that's something to consider after we handle your divorce case. Gabriel closed the tablet and looked at her directly. "How are you holding up with all of this? I know it can't be easy to maintain the facade at home." The question caught Zara off guard. No one had asked how she was doing through all of this. Her sister Riley was supportive but focused on the practical aspects. Her friends didn't know anything was wrong. Brandon certainly wasn't concerned about her emotional well-being. "It's harder than I expected," she admitted. "Yesterday he brought me flowers and told me he loved me, and for a second I forgot that he was lying. I almost felt guilty for trapping him." "That's normal," Gabriel said gently. "You're grieving the end of your marriage while also having to pretend nothing's wrong. That takes incredible strength." Something in his voice made her look at him more closely. "Have you been through a divorce?" 3 years ago. My ex-wife was having an affair with her tennis instructor. I found out when I saw a charge for a weekend in Napa on our joint card." He smiled ruefully. "I didn't handle it as strategically as you have. I confronted her immediately and ended up with a much worse settlement than I should have gotten." "I'm sorry. That must have been awful." "It was. But it taught me something important. The people who stay calm and think strategically in these situations usually come out better in the end." "You're going to be okay, Zara?" The way he said her name with confidence and respect, made something flutter in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Driving home, Zara found herself thinking about Gabriel's kindness, his competence, the way he treated her like an intelligent partner rather than a victim. When was the last time Brandon had looked at her with that kind of respect? At home, Brandon was already in bed, scrolling through his phone. Probably texting Nicole. "How was your evening?" he asked without looking up. "Fine. Had dinner with Riley." The lie came easily now. "How about you?" "Just caught up on some reports." "Nothing exciting." Zara got ready for bed thinking about Nicole's Instagram post from that morning. The young woman looked so pleased with herself, so confident that she was living her best life. She had no idea that her sugar daddy was about to lose everything. As Zara drifted off to sleep, she found herself wondering what Nicole would do when the credit cards got cut off. When Brandon lost his job for embezzlement. When the expensive gifts stopped coming and reality set in. She supposed she would find out soon enough. 3 weeks later, Zara's evidence file had grown into something that looked like a federal investigation. Gabriel had helped her organize everything into categories: financial fraud, adultery evidence, timeline documentation, and asset protection. The trap credit card had captured over $75,000 in fraudulent charges, each one meticulously documented and cross-referenced. But Gabriel had discovered something even more damaging. "Your husband has been using your joint business account to fund his affair," Gabriel explained during their Thursday meeting at his office. "The account that's supposed to be for your freelance design business? He's been making cash withdrawals and transfers that I think he assumed you wouldn't notice." Zara stared at the bank statements spread across Gabriel's desk. Highlighted in yellow were dozens of transactions she hadn't authorized. $2,000 cash withdrawal, $3,500 transfer to his personal account, $1,800 cash withdrawal. The amounts were staggered over several months, never enough to empty the account but substantial enough to fund an expensive lifestyle for 2 people. "That bastard," she whispered. "That account has money I earned. Money for our future, for the house renovations we've been planning." "Which brings up another issue," Gabriel said carefully. "The renovations. Has Brandon been talking about any major purchases lately? Home improvements, investments, anything that would require moving large amounts of money?" "Actually, yes. He's been pushing to refinance the house. He says we could get a better rate and pull out equity for improvements." Zara felt her stomach drop. "He's trying to get access to more money, isn't he?" "It's possible. We need to act quickly to protect your assets. I've drawn up papers to freeze your joint accounts and establish your separate property claims, but you'll need to file for divorce to implement them." The word, divorce, still hit her like a punch to the chest, even though she had been planning it for weeks. This was really happening. Her 7-year marriage was ending and she was about to become one of those women she had always felt sorry for. Divorced, betrayed, starting over. "Zara?" Gabriel's voice was gentle. "You don't have to decide today. But the longer we wait, the more assets he could potentially hide or spend." She looked at Gabriel across his desk, taking in his patient expression and kind eyes. Over the past month, their meetings had become the highlight of her week. He treated her like a partner, valued her intelligence, made her feel capable and strong. The contrast with Brandon's dismissive attitude toward her was stark. "Let's do it," she said firmly. "File the papers." "Are you sure?" "Once we file, there's no going back to gathering evidence quietly." "I'm sure. Besides," she smiled grimly, "I have an idea about how to make the confrontation count." That evening, Brandon came home with takeout from their favorite Thai restaurant and a bottle of wine. "Thought we could have a nice dinner together?" he said, kissing her cheek. "Feel like we haven't been connecting lately." The irony was painful. He was right, they hadn't been connecting. But not for the reasons he thought. Over dinner, Brandon was more talkative than he had been in months. He told her about his work projects, asked about her design clients, even brought up their old plans for traveling to Europe together. "Maybe we should book that trip to Italy we talked about," he suggested. "After we refinance the house and get some cash freed up." There it was. The refinancing plan that would give him access to their home equity. Money he could spend on Nicole while Zara paid the mortgage. "That sounds wonderful," she said. "How much equity could we pull out?" "Probably around 100,000. We could do the renovations and still have money left over for travel, investments, whatever we want." "Whatever we want." He said it so casually, as if Nicole wasn't part of the equation. As if the "we" in that sentence meant what it used to mean. After dinner, Brandon retreated to his office for client calls, and Zara texted Gabriel, "He's definitely planning to access home equity. We need to move fast." Gabriel's response was immediate. Papers will be ready tomorrow. Are you prepared for his reaction? Zara looked around their living room at the photos from their wedding, at the furniture they had picked out together, at the life they had built that was about to end. Brandon's laughter echoed from his office, probably talking to Nicole. She typed back, "I'm ready." But as she got ready for bed, Zara realized she wasn't just ready to end her marriage. She was ready to start over. And for the first time in months, that prospect felt exciting rather than terrifying. The trap had worked perfectly. Brandon had stolen her money, betrayed her trust, and lied to her face for months. But in doing so, he had also given her everything she needed to walk away with her dignity and her assets intact. Tomorrow, Gabriel would file the divorce papers. And then the real confrontation would begin. The divorce papers were filed on a Friday morning. Gabriel handled everything at the courthouse while Zara was at work, maintaining her normal routine. By evening, she was officially separated from Brandon, with temporary orders freezing their joint accounts and protecting her assets. Brandon had no idea. The restraining orders on the accounts will go into effect Monday morning, Gabriel explained over the phone. Which means you have the weekend to prepare for his reaction when his cards start getting declined. Actually, Zara said, I have a better idea. What if we didn't wait for him to find out accidentally? She outlined her plan to Gabriel, who was quiet for a long moment after she finished. That's actually brilliant, he said finally. Public, witnessed, recorded, and completely legal. But are you sure you're emotionally prepared for that level of confrontation? I've been preparing for weeks. And honestly, I want our families to know the truth about who he really is. The plan was simple but devastating. Sunday dinner at their house with both sets of parents, Brandon's sister and Zara's sister Riley. A family gathering that Brandon would think was just a normal weekend dinner. But Zara would be presenting him with a very special gift. Saturday morning, Zara spent hours at a print shop, creating a beautiful leather-bound photo album. The kind that looked like a wedding album or vacation memories. Inside, instead of happy photos, were printed screenshots of every credit card charge, every receipt, every timeline entry from her investigation. The first page read, Brandon's business trips, a photo journey. The next pages showed the charges from Miami, paired with Nicole's Instagram photos from the same locations. The Fontainebleau pool charge next to Nicole's poolside selfie. The Nobu dinner receipt next to Nicole's post about amazing sushi with someone special. The final pages contained screenshots of their text message history. Gabriel had helped her legally obtain these through a private investigator. Bank statements showing the unauthorized transfers, and a timeline showing how Brandon's work trips always coincided with charges for two people. It was damning, complete, and presented in a format that told the story clearly to anyone who looked at it. Sunday evening, both families arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. Zara's parents brought wine, Brandon's mother brought her famous brownies. Everyone was in good spirits, happy for a family dinner they hadn't had in months. Brandon played the perfect host, charming everyone with stories from work and compliments for Zara's cooking. His parents beamed with pride at their successful son. Her parents asked about their Europe travel plans. His sister talked about wanting to find a marriage as strong as theirs. Every word felt like a knife. After dinner, as everyone settled in the living room with dessert and coffee, Zara stood up. I have something special to share with everyone, she announced. Brandon, this is for you. She handed him the leather album with a bright smile. Just some memories I put together. Brandon looked confused but pleased. Honey, what's the occasion? Open it and see. The room fell silent as Brandon opened the album. Zara watched his face change as he processed the first page, then the second. The color drained from his cheeks. His hands started to shake slightly. What is this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Your business trips, Zara replied calmly. I thought it would be nice to document all the places you've been, all the things you've done. Keep going, there's more. Brandon's mother leaned forward. What kind of business trips? Zara's father picked up a printed receipt from the coffee table. She had spread some of them out as decoration. The Fontainebleau Hotel? That's quite a business conference, son. By now, everyone in the room was looking at documents and photos. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Brandon sat frozen, still clutching the album. $50,000, Zara said quietly. That's what you spent on your girlfriend in Miami. On my credit card. While lying to my face about where you were. Brandon's sister gasped. Brandon, what is she talking about? I can explain, Brandon started, but his voice cracked. Explain what? Zara's mother asked, holding up a photo of Nicole wearing the Tiffany earrings. Explain who this woman is? Explain why you bought her jewelry that costs more than most people's cars. It's not what it looks like, Brandon said desperately. At that moment, as if on cue, his phone rang. The caller ID was visible to everyone, Nicole Redhart. Zara reached over and answered the call, putting it on speaker before Brandon could stop her. Hey baby, Nicole's voice filled the room. Are you still coming over tonight? I made dinner reservations at that new place you wanted to try. The silence in the room was deafening. Actually, Nicole, Zara said calmly into the phone, this is Zara, Brandon's wife. He won't be coming over tonight. Or any other night. The call ended immediately. Brandon's father stood up slowly. Son, is this true? Brandon looked around the room at the faces of everyone he cared about. His parents looked horrified and disappointed. His sister was crying. Zara's family looked furious. And Zara herself stood in the center of it all, calm and composed, finally free to tell the truth. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sorry for cheating? Zara asked. Sorry for stealing my money? Sorry for lying to everyone in this room? Or sorry you got caught? Brandon had no answer. The perfect trap had finally snapped shut. The silence that followed Nicole's phone call stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Zara watched Brandon's face cycle through emotions. Shock, panic, calculation, and finally, a desperate kind of anger. You set me up, he said, his voice rising. That credit card, you planned this whole thing. I gave you access to my money and you chose to steal it, Zara replied evenly. I gave you opportunities to tell me the truth and you chose to lie. I didn't make you do anything, Brandon. I just made it easier to catch you doing what you were already doing. Brandon's mother was flipping through the photo album, her face growing paler with each page. Brandon James Coleman, she said, using his full name like she had when he was a child in trouble. How could you do this to Zara? How could you do this to our family? Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, his father interrupted, his voice cold with disappointment. You cheated on your wife with a colleague, spent her money on your affair, and lied to everyone who cares about you. What exactly am I not understanding? Zara's father stood up and put his arm around her shoulders. Sweetheart, how long have you known? About the affair? I suspected for months. But I only had proof after I set up the monitoring account 3 weeks ago. She looked directly at Brandon. 3 weeks of watching you spend my money on her while coming home and telling me you loved me. I do love you, Brandon said desperately. This thing with Nicole, it's not serious. It's just, I don't know, a midlife crisis or something. We can work through this. Riley, who had been quietly documenting the conversation on her phone, spoke up. A midlife crisis that cost $75,000? A midlife crisis that involved embezzling from joint accounts. Brandon's head snapped toward Riley. What embezzling? Zara smiled coldly. Did you think I wouldn't notice the withdrawals from our business account? The transfers you thought I was too stupid to see? Gabriel helped me trace all of it, Brandon. Every stolen dollar. Gabriel? Who the hell is Gabriel? My financial investigator. Also my divorce attorney as of yesterday morning. She pulled out a folder and handed him the divorce papers. Consider yourself served. Brandon stared at the legal documents like they were written in a foreign language. Divorce? Zara, come on. We can fix this. Couples therapy, anything you want. What I want is for you to leave my house. Our house, Brandon corrected automatically. My house, Zara repeated firmly. Check page 12 of those papers. Temporary orders award me exclusive use of the marital home. You have until tomorrow evening to collect your personal belongings. Brandon's sister had been crying quietly throughout the confrontation, but now she spoke up. Brandon, just stop. Stop making it worse. Look around this room. Look at what you've done to people who love you. For the first time, Brandon seemed to really see the devastation on everyone's faces. His parents looked older somehow, aged by disappointment. Zara's parents were clearly struggling between anger at him and support for their daughter. His sister was heartbroken. And Zara herself stood in the center of it all like an avenging angel, beautiful and terrible and completely untouchable. I never meant for this to happen, he said quietly. But it did happen, Zara replied. And now everyone knows exactly who you really are. Brandon's phone rang again. Nicole, of course. This time he declined the call, but it rang again immediately. You should probably answer that, Zara suggested. She's going to be very confused when your credit cards start getting declined tomorrow. What do you mean? Gabriel had prepared her for this moment. All joint accounts are frozen as of tomorrow morning. The credit cards you've been using, the checking account, the savings account, even the business line of credit. You'll have access to whatever was in your personal accounts, but everything else is protected pending the divorce settlement. Brandon's face went white. You can't do that. I need access to those accounts for work, for living expenses. You should have thought of that before you spent my money on your girlfriend. Zara's voice remained calm, but inside she felt a fierce satisfaction. Don't worry, I'm sure Nicole will understand when the expensive dinners and shopping trips stop. Brandon looked around the room one more time, as if hoping someone would come to his defense. No one did. Even his own parents were looking at him like they didn't recognize him. I'll fight this, he said finally. I'll get a lawyer. You can't just take everything. I'm not taking everything, Zara corrected. I'm protecting my assets from further theft. There's a difference. Brandon's father cleared his throat. Son, I think you should leave now. Let everyone cool down, figure out next steps. Dad, you're taking her side? I'm taking the side of honesty and decency. Something you seem to have forgotten about. As Brandon gathered his keys and wallet, preparing to leave his own home, he turned back to Zara one more time. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is, Zara replied simply. It's been over for weeks. You just didn't know it yet. After Brandon left, the families began cleaning up the dinner dishes and evidence papers. Everyone moved quietly, still processing what had just happened. I'm proud of you, Zara's mother said, hugging her daughter tightly. It took incredible strength to handle this the way you did. I'm proud of you too, added Brandon's mother, surprising everyone. You deserved so much better than what my son gave you. I'm ashamed of him. As the evening wound down and families began to leave, Zara found herself alone in her living room, finally able to process what had just happened. 7 years of marriage had ended in the space of an hour. But instead of feeling devastated, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months: relief. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gabriel. How did it go? She typed back, perfectly. The trap worked exactly as planned. How are you feeling? Zara paused, considering the question. How was she feeling? Free. Vindicated. Strong. And for the first time in a very long time, hopeful about her future. I'm feeling like myself again, she texted back. That's the best possible outcome, Gabriel replied. Tomorrow we start building your new life. New life. Zara liked the sound of that. The first sign that Zara's plan was working perfectly came Monday morning at 9:47 a.m. Her phone rang with a call from Brandon's work number. Zara? It's Brandon. Listen, there's some kind of mistake with our accounts. My cards are getting declined and I need you to call the bank. There's no mistake, Zara interrupted calmly. The accounts are frozen by court order as part of our divorce proceedings. You'll need to use your personal accounts. Divorce proceedings? Zara, come on, we talked about this. One fight doesn't mean we're getting divorced. Brandon, you stole $75,000 from me to spend on your affair. That's not a fight, that's theft. And fraud. And adultery. The divorce papers I served you last night made everything quite clear. The line was quiet for a long moment. I need access to those accounts, Zara. I have bills, obligations. Then you should have thought of that before you embezzled from them. She hung up and immediately called Gabriel to report the conversation. His response was exactly what she had hoped for. That call establishes that he knew the accounts were frozen but was trying to manipulate you into giving him access anyway. It's excellent evidence of his ongoing attempt to control the situation. 2 hours later, Gabriel called back with even better news. Brandon's company wants to meet with us this afternoon. Apparently, they've launched an internal investigation into his expense reports after receiving an anonymous tip about his relationship with Nicole Parker. Anonymous tip? Sometimes concerned citizens feel compelled to report fraud when they see it, Gabriel said carefully. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Zara smiled. She had a pretty good idea who might have sent Brandon's company a detailed timeline of his expenses, along with evidence that his business trips were actually personal vacations with a subordinate employee. The meeting at Henderson & Associates took place at 3 p.m. Brandon's company was represented by their general counsel and HR director, who looked extremely uncomfortable throughout the presentation. Mrs. Coleman, the general counsel began, we want to first apologize for any role our employees' actions may have played in your situation. We take workplace relationships and expense fraud very seriously. Gabriel spread out the evidence on the conference table. Credit card statements, expense reports, travel receipts, and timeline documents. The pattern was undeniable. Mr. Coleman submitted expense reports for business travel that were actually personal trips with Miss Parker, Gabriel explained. He also used company accounts to pay for meals, entertainment, and gifts that had no business purpose. The HR director was taking notes rapidly. Do you have documentation showing the company account was used? Zara pulled out another folder. She had spent Sunday morning after Brandon left, going through old bank statements and credit card bills. The company card charges told their own story. Expensive dinners for two on nights when Brandon claimed to be working late, hotel charges in cities where the company had no clients, spa treatments and shopping that were clearly personal. $15,000 in fraudulent company expenses over the past 6 months, she said, sliding the summary across the table. The general counsel's face was grim. And Miss Parker's involvement? She benefited directly from the fraudulent charges, Gabriel replied. The restaurants, hotels, and gifts were for her. She also appears in social media posts that establish she was present during the fraudulent business trips. What happens now? Zara asked. Mr. Coleman will be terminated immediately for cause, the HR director said. We'll also be filing a complaint with local law enforcement for embezzlement. As for Miss Parker, her employment is also terminated. Company policy strictly prohibits romantic relationships between supervisors and subordinates, especially when they involve fraud. As they left the law office, Zara felt another piece of satisfaction click into place. Brandon hadn't just lost his wife and his home access, he had lost his job and his girlfriend in the same day. Her phone buzzed with multiple text messages from Brandon. They fired me. I hope you're happy. Nicole got fired too. She's devastated. How could you do this to us? I need somewhere to stay. The hotel is expensive and my cards are maxed out. Zara showed the messages to Gabriel, who immediately advised her not to respond. He's trying to make you feel guilty and sorry for him. Don't engage. Every message he sends is evidence of his attempts to manipulate you. That evening, Riley came over with takeout and wine to celebrate what she called the most satisfying takedown in history. Brandon's sister called me, Riley reported. Apparently he showed up at their parents' house this afternoon, crying and asking to borrow money. His dad told him to get a job and figure out his own problems. What about Nicole? Oh, that's the best part. According to office gossip, and yes, I have sources at his company, Nicole completely freaked out when she got fired. Started screaming that Brandon had promised he was going to leave you and marry her. Apparently she had no idea he was stealing money to fund their relationship. She thought he was just wealthy. Zara almost felt sorry for Nicole. Almost. She really didn't know he was married when it started? According to the gossip, she knew but thought you two were separated. Brandon told her you were just staying in the house temporarily until the divorce was finalized. She thought she was dating a soon-to-be divorced man, not helping break up a marriage. The lies just kept coming. Brandon had manipulated Nicole almost as much as he had manipulated Zara, just in different ways. Later that evening, as Zara was getting ready for bed in her quiet house, her phone rang. Gabriel's name appeared on the screen. Just wanted to check how you're doing after today, he said. It was a lot of information and legal proceedings all at once. I'm doing surprisingly well, Zara replied honestly. Better than I've felt in months, actually. That's good to hear. You've handled everything with incredible grace and intelligence. I hope you know how impressive that is. Something in Gabriel's voice made her pause. Over the past month, their professional relationship had developed into something that felt like friendship. He had been kind, supportive, and respectful throughout the entire ordeal. He had seen her at her most vulnerable and treated her with dignity. Gabriel, she said carefully, can I ask you something personal? Of course. When your divorce was final, how long did it take before you felt ready to trust someone again? He was quiet for a moment. That's a complicated question. I think it depends less on time and more on the person you're considering trusting. What do you mean? I mean, some people show you who they are through their actions over time. Others show you through how they treat you when you're going through the worst experience of your life. Zara felt her heart speed up slightly. Was he talking about her situation or something else? The right person, Gabriel continued, will see you at your most vulnerable and still treat you with respect and kindness. They'll support your strength instead of taking advantage of your weakness. Gabriel, Zara said softly, are we still talking about divorce recovery? His chuckle was warm and genuine. Maybe not entirely. But we should probably wait until your divorce is final before we have that conversation more directly. How long until it's final? With all the evidence we have, probably 3 to 4 months. Maybe sooner if Brandon doesn't contest the terms. 3 months. Zara found herself looking forward to those months not with dread, but with anticipation. Time to heal, time to rebuild, and time to see where this unexpected connection with Gabriel might lead. I should let you get some rest, Gabriel said. Big day tomorrow, we're meeting with the prosecutor about Brandon's embezzlement charges. Gabriel? Yes. Thank you. For everything. You've made the worst time in my life feel manageable. You made it manageable, Zara. I just helped organize the evidence. After they hung up, Zara sat in her bedroom thinking about the events of the past month. Brandon's betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but it had also led her to discover her own strength. And unexpectedly, it had brought Gabriel into her life. The trap she had set for Brandon had worked perfectly. But she was beginning to think it might have caught something else entirely, a chance at real happiness. 6 months after the confrontation that ended her marriage, Zara stood in her completely renovated kitchen, making coffee for two. The house looked nothing like it had when Brandon lived there. She had painted every wall, replaced the furniture, and turned his old office into a bright studio space for her design work. Gabriel emerged from the guest bedroom where he had been staying for the past 2 weeks while his own place was being fumigated, wearing one of her old college t-shirts and looking adorably rumpled. "Good morning," he said, kissing her forehead as he reached for his mug. "Did you see the news about Brandon?" Zara's divorce had been finalized 2 months earlier, with a settlement that left her with the house, most of their assets, and a substantial alimony payment. Brandon had attempted to contest the terms, but the evidence of his fraud made his legal position impossible. "What news?" she asked, settling onto the couch beside him. Gabriel pulled up a local news article on his phone. Henderson Financial, his old company, is suing him for civil damages related to the embezzlement. Apparently the criminal charges were just the beginning. The article detailed how Brandon's fraudulent expense reports had cost the company nearly $50,000 over 2 years, much more than Zara's investigation had originally uncovered. The company was seeking full restitution plus damages. How much is he looking at paying? Probably around $150,000 total, between the criminal restitution, civil damages, and legal fees. Plus he still owes the IRS for unreported income from the fraudulent expenses. Zara felt a moment of satisfaction, followed quickly by something that surprised her: pity. Brandon had lost his job, his wife, his girlfriend, his family's respect, and now faced financial ruin. All for what? A few expensive vacations and jewelry for a woman who had dumped him the moment the money stopped flowing. "Do you feel bad for him?" Gabriel asked, reading her expression. "A little," she admitted. "Is that weird?" "Not at all. You're not a vindictive person, Zara. You wanted justice and protection for yourself, not to destroy him completely. The fact that you can feel empathy for him even after what he did says good things about your character." This was one of the things Zara had come to love about Gabriel over the past months. He understood her complicated emotions without judgment. He supported her strength but never dismissed her softer feelings. Their relationship had developed slowly and carefully after her divorce was final. Dinner dates, long walks, conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. Gabriel had been patient with her trust issues, understanding about her need to rebuild her sense of self, and amazed by her resilience. "Speaking of character," Gabriel said, "I have something to tell you." "Good something or bad something?" "Good something. Remember that financial consulting business you talked about starting? The one helping other women who've been financially betrayed?" Zara nodded. The idea had come to her during her own divorce proceedings. She had realized how lucky she was to have Gabriel's expertise and wondered how many women going through similar situations didn't have that kind of help. "Well, I may have mentioned your idea to a friend who works at the Women's Legal Aid Society. They're looking for someone to run financial fraud workshops for their clients. It would be part-time to start, but it could grow into something bigger." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. They want to meet with you next week." Zara threw her arms around Gabriel's neck, nearly spilling both their coffees. The idea of turning her worst experience into something that could help other women felt like perfect closure. Her phone rang, interrupting the celebration. Riley's name appeared on the screen. "Guess what I just heard through the office gossip network," Riley said without preamble. "Good morning to you too, sister dear. Nicole Parker got arrested last night for credit card fraud. Apparently she's been running scams on dating apps, getting men to give her their financial information and then maxing out their cards." Zara and Gabriel exchanged looks. So her relationship with Brandon wasn't her first time stealing from men? Apparently not. The police think she specifically targeted married men because they're less likely to report fraud quickly. Something about not wanting their wives to see the charges. Wow. Brandon really knew how to pick them. Speaking of picking them, Riley continued, how are things with your sexy investigator? Gabriel raised his eyebrows and mouthed, sexy investigator? With an amused smile. Things are good, Zara said, rolling her eyes at her sister. Really good. Good enough that you're ready to make it official? Riley. Because I may have already planned an engagement party for you too. Hypothetically. For whenever you get around to actually getting engaged. We haven't even talked about. Gabriel took the phone from her hands. Hi Riley, it's the sexy investigator. What kind of timeline are we looking at for this hypothetical party? Zara could hear Riley's delighted laughter through the phone. I like him, she told Zara loudly. Keep this one. After Gabriel hung up, Zara looked at him seriously. Were you joking about the engagement thing? Which part? Any of it. All of it. Gabriel set down his coffee and took her hands in his. Zara, I've watched you transform from a woman whose husband was stealing from her to someone who built a trap sophisticated enough to catch him, documented everything perfectly, and came out stronger than ever. You've started a new career helping other women in similar situations. You've rebuilt your entire life from the ground up. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, you found room to care about me. Gabriel. I'm not joking about wanting to spend my life with you. But I also want to make sure you've had enough time to heal from Brandon's betrayal. I don't want to be your rebound relationship. I want to be your forever relationship. Tears were forming in Zara's eyes, but they were happy tears. You're not a rebound. You're the man who saw me at my worst and helped me become my best. You're the man who treated me like a partner when my own husband treated me like an afterthought. So is that a yes to Riley's hypothetical engagement party? Zara laughed and kissed him. Ask me properly and find out. Gabriel grinned and dropped to one knee right there in her living room, still wearing her old college t-shirt and holding her hands instead of a ring. Zara Coleman, will you marry me? Yes, she said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. As Gabriel stood up to kiss her, Zara reflected on how strange life could be. Brandon's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also led her to discover her own strength, her professional calling, and the love of her life. The credit card trap had caught more than just a cheating husband. It had caught her a chance at real happiness. 1 year later, Zara stood in the bridal suite of the boutique hotel where she and Gabriel were about to be married. The room was filled with flowers, laughter, and the kind of joy she had forgotten was possible. Riley was fussing with her veil while her mother touched up her makeup, and for the first time in years, Zara felt completely, genuinely happy. You look absolutely radiant, her mother said, stepping back to admire her daughter. Gabriel is going to lose his mind when he sees you. The wedding dress was nothing like the one Zara had worn for her first marriage. That dress had been traditional, chosen more for the photos than for how it made her feel. This dress was bold and beautiful, with a fitted silhouette and delicate beading that caught the light when she moved. She felt like herself in it, confident, strong, and ready for whatever came next. Her financial consulting business, Secure Future Financial, had grown beyond her wildest dreams. What had started as part-time workshops had become a full-service practice helping women protect their assets and detect financial fraud. She had 5 employees now, including 2 former clients who had become passionate advocates after successfully divorcing their own cheating husbands. Gabriel had proposed properly 3 months after that morning in her kitchen, with a stunning ring and a romantic dinner at the restaurant where they had had their first official date. The engagement had been everything her first had pretended to be: genuine, loving, and built on mutual respect and partnership. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, Riley called. To Zara's surprise, it was Gabriel's assistant from his law firm, looking slightly apologetic. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but Mrs. Coleman, I mean Mrs. Torres, to be there's someone here to see you. He says it's important. Zara's heart skipped. Who is it? Brandon Coleman. He's in the hotel lobby asking to speak with you. The room went completely silent. Riley's face darkened with anger, and Zara's mother looked ready to march downstairs and confront Brandon herself. What does he want? Zara asked calmly. He said he wants to apologize and wish you well. The hotel security is with him. Mr. Torres arranged for that, so you're perfectly safe. But Mr. Torres wanted me to ask what you'd like to do. Zara looked at herself in the mirror. She was wearing a wedding dress, about to marry a man who truly loved her, surrounded by people who supported her happiness. She had built a successful business from the ashes of Brandon's betrayal. She had turned the worst experience of her life into something that helped other women. Brandon had lost everything. His job, his reputation, his family's respect, his financial security. The criminal charges had resulted in probation and community service, but the civil lawsuits had left him essentially bankrupt. According to the last update Gabriel had received, Brandon was working as a car salesman and living in a studio apartment across town. Tell him I'll give him 5 minutes, Zara said. In the lobby with security present. Zara, are you sure? Riley asked. It's your wedding day. You don't owe him anything. I know I don't owe him anything, but I want to hear what he has to say. I want to see who he is now. Gabriel was waiting in the lobby when Zara came downstairs. He looked devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo, but his face was concerned and protective. You don't have to do this, he said, taking her hands. I want to, but stay close. Always. Brandon was sitting in a chair near the lobby's fireplace, flanked by 2 hotel security guards. He looked older than Zara remembered and definitely worse for wear. His suit was cheap and ill-fitting, his hair was thinning, and there was a defeated quality to his posture that she had never seen before. When he saw her approaching, he stood up slowly. His eyes widened as he took in her appearance. Zara, he said quietly. You look beautiful. Thank you. What did you want to say to me, Brandon? He glanced nervously at Gabriel and the security guards, then back at her. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For what I did to you, for how I treated you, for the way things ended. Okay. I appreciate the apology. I also wanted you to know that I understand now. What you did, the credit card trap, the investigation, all of it was brilliant. I was angry at first, felt like you had set me up. But you just gave me enough rope to hang myself, didn't you? Zara nodded. That's exactly what I did. I deserved everything that happened to me. The divorce, losing my job, Nicole leaving me when the money stopped, all of it. You were a good wife, and I threw it all away for something that wasn't even real. Brandon, why are you telling me this now? On my wedding day. He looked down at his hands. Because I heard about your business. About how you're helping other women who went through what you went through. And I realized that even my betrayal turned into something positive for you. You took the worst thing I ever did to you and made it into something that helps people. Zara felt Gabriel's hand squeeze hers gently. That's right. I did. I wanted you to know that I'm proud of you. I know I don't have the right to be, but I am. And I wanted to wish you happiness with. He looked at Gabriel, with someone who deserves you. Thank you, Zara said simply. Brandon nodded and turned to Gabriel. Take care of her. She's smarter than both of us combined, and she deserves everything good in the world. I plan to, Gabriel replied. As Brandon walked toward the lobby exit, he paused and looked back one more time. Zara? The credit card you used for the trap, did you really load it with $50,000 of your own money just to catch me? I did. That's the most expensive lesson anyone's ever taught me. But it was worth every penny, wasn't it? Zara smiled. It was worth every penny. After Brandon left, Gabriel wrapped his arms around her from behind. How do you feel? Like I'm ready to marry you and start the next chapter of our life together. No regrets about seeing him? Zara thought about it for a moment. Actually, no. It was perfect closure. He apologized, acknowledged what he did wrong, and recognized that I turned his betrayal into something positive. I couldn't have asked for a better ending to that story. And now we start our story. An hour later, Zara walked down the aisle toward Gabriel, surrounded by family and friends who truly supported their happiness. As she reached the altar and took Gabriel's hands, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. Brandon's betrayal had been devastating. But it had also revealed her own strength, led her to her true calling, and brought Gabriel into her life. The credit card trap had been the beginning of the best revenge possible. A life so much better than the one she had lost that she was grateful for the betrayal that had set her free. As Gabriel slipped the wedding ring onto her finger and promised to love her with honesty and respect for the rest of their lives, Zara realized that perfect revenge wasn't about destroying the person who hurt you. Perfect revenge was building a life so beautiful that you could thank them for setting you free to find it.